Thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, my pleasure.
I love your face so hard. Ever since the first time I saw you eating pho at My Toe.
Yeah, that's a great place. I'm sure it still is a great place.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they still have good food. So
Questionable policies, great food.
questionable, exactly. Okay, so how many countries have you been in? How many countries have you traveled to?
Last year or just in total?
In total.
I don't know, maybe 50, 55. I don't know, I stopped counting. I don't know, I'm not sure. My most memorable countries, a lot of them, they stick out for different reasons. I mean, one of the most memorable countries that I've ever been to is England, because it was the first country that I went to outside of the US, for example. Another one of the most memorable is Vietnam, because I got into a bit of trouble, you could say. And yeah, it was the first time that I had comrades in full uniform with semi-automatic weapons at my door in the middle of the night, and that was quite scary.
Okay, so, I've got to ask, what happened?
Well, we didn't do anything.
Okay.
So I was with my best friend who's from China. He was living in China at the time, and I think I probably slept through that part in history because there's a bit about the U.S. losing the Vietnam War, and that's why Vietnam is still communist, right? And my best friend kept telling me, I don't want to go on vacation from a communist country to a communist country. And I said, well, yeah, okay. Literally no idea what that meant. And we get to the airport and, looking around, I'm like, wow, these people are wearing funny uniforms. I haven't seen uniforms like these since the Oh, yeah. And I looked at him and I was like, I finally understand what you mean by that. And he's like, that's what I'm saying. I said, well, shit, sorry, buddy. So, okay, we're kind of thinking about it. Communism is a thing. We check into this beautiful penthouse apartment in Hanoi, Vietnam. And it's got it's one of these places, looks terrible from the outside. You can't even tell it's a building. And we're kind of walking up. We're looking for the person who's supposed to let us in. And this guy comes out and he says, oh yeah, you're here for the Airbnb. Yeah, cool. So we follow him in and we go up this terribly dusty little elevator. I mean, there's nothing about this building that's exceptional or says that it's, an Airbnb at all. We get into this crappy elevator, padded walls, and we go up to the top floor and we meet a solid wall. And I'm like, this can't be where we're supposed to be. And he presses a button and it opens to reveal this penthouse apartment. Solid windows, it's gorgeous. And so, we're elated. We walk in, we're so excited about it. And all the other places we had stayed, as soon as we get there, they write down our passport, everything, for the government to know where we are. They didn't do that in this one. And we said, okay, no problem. Come the middle of the night, we hear, not through the main door, but through the service, there's like a service elevator, these heavy boots walking up the stairs. And we're having some wine, And we hear somebody knocking really hard on that back door. And we open it up. Well, I opened it up because the guy that was with me actually used to work for me. And he said, hey, boss, you do it. And I said, I'm not your boss. And he said, well, you are right now. So I was chosen to open the door, and I opened that little service door, and there were two comrades, Vietnamese soldiers dressed in full dress with their semi-automatic weapons, and they just started yelling at us in Vietnamese. And obviously, I don't speak Vietnamese. And the problem was, apparently, in the Airbnb world, you either pay a service charge or you pay a bribe. Our guy had paid neither, which is why they paid us a visit at 1 o'clock in the morning, and it was the first time that I had realized that it was possible to. This sounds really naive, but it was possible to be in a country where the police weren't on your side, which I imagine is the experience of many of my countrymen now. That I've had the privilege of never experiencing until I left the U.S. and found myself in another country. And I said, oh my God, the police are not on our side. And it was terrifying,
Yeah.
really terrifying.
How much did you have to pay to get out of it?
We didn't pay anything.
Okay.
We just did a little diplomatic situation, and got the Airbnb guy on the phone and said, listen, with all due respect, if you don't include the bribe in the cost of the place, it's not our duty to pay the bribe. So you do what you have to. And he came over and he paid.
Okay.
So that was a memorable country as well.
Yeah, that was scary.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So actually, how did you get into this?
Get into what?
How did you get into travel and business and opening up?
A consultancy. I have a consultancy firm.
What do you consult?
I develop programs, social intervention programs, usually around the vein of education. So somebody says to me, hey, we've got a donor who wants to, basically they've got some money and they'd like to work with teachers. They have a general idea of where they want to work, but they don't know how this should go. What can we build that would be effective and sustainable and try to break the cycle of aid dependency? And that's what I do, is I create those programs through a lot of ground research, going in and actually talking to communities and figuring out what they'd like rather than just imposing a system. So that's my job. The first community that I worked in that was really geared towards sustainability was in New York City in a school district in Brooklyn. And we had a failing school district. They were closing schools. It's called Bedford-Stuyvesant, District 16. It's where Biggie's from, just in case you're curious. So it's a school district with a really colorful past and a more colorful future. It's been rapidly gentrifying for the past, 5 years or so. And basically the schools were closing. The neighborhood itself didn't have a good reputation, and nobody wanted to send their kids there. And the schools weren't high quality. They weren't known to be high quality. And so kids were going to different places, and they kept shutting schools. So I had to develop an intervention that would stop the schools from closing and bring positive visibility into the neighborhood. And that was a very successful project. And in fact, the thing that I developed has been replicated in every borough in New York now. And they not only stopped closing schools, but they started opening schools. So it was like a 300% increase in enrollment or something. So yeah, it was really, that's the first sustainability. But the first community I ever worked in was here in Wichita. I worked in Coleman Middle School. And so I worked with, my demographic was East Side, and our kids went to East High or Southeast for high school. College and profession didn't sync up at all. I mean, I studied analytic philosophy and international relations. And analytic philosophy is like math with words, right? It's the logical order of everything, right? The way it should be. But my profession came about because I began to work in inner city schools here in Wichita, and slowly the interventions that I was taking on got bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's the path that led me. It led me to go to Columbia University in New York City. I got a scholarship to go there, actually to develop a boarding school, charter school model for foster care kids. And that was the idea that brought me to New York City. Otherwise, I didn't have any schooling. I never had schooling. I was supposed to marry my theory and my practice and my PhD. But as it turns out, I don't really want to do a PhD right now. I mean, it's a long time to sit in a classroom, and I'm young and dumb enough to be out doing this stuff. So in a couple of weeks, I'll go down to Brazil. Maybe I should start by saying I should have been back in Tanzania, which is where I live, East Africa. I should have been back in Tanzania 1 month ago, but things being as they are, it's not a good time, and the borders are still closed. I'm developing an in-service teacher training program in Tanzania, and we're not able to start that until January. That's what's come of this. So rather than going back to Tanzania and just kind of sitting around, I've accepted a contract to go open a school in Sao Paulo, Brazil. So it'll take 6 months to get it off the ground, but it's a really nice school. They do a lot with social emotional learning. They have an online platform that's got 200,000 users, and it's called a reference school. So it's like, the Apple Store, where you go in, everything is high tech, and you can try everything out. That's what the school is. So it's a reference school for the online platform that's being used in other school districts in Brazil. So that's the immediate future. And then I'll probably be back in Tanzania at the beginning of December. My next program, the program that I'm building, will start in January, like January 2nd. And then I'll divide my time between Tanzania and most likely Ethiopia, because I'm consulting about building a technical school in Ethiopia. Because right now there's a huge countries like Ethiopia and Rwanda, Ghana, Senegal, Kenya, South Africa. They have incredible industries, and they're kind of these technological innovation hubs, but they are experiencing a deficit in technical education. So they've basically got outdated technical education programs, so they don't have the ability to cultivate a skilled workforce for those very specific, innovative jobs that are being created by let's call them social incubators. I just turned 30. I came to Wichita to celebrate my 30th birthday, actually. But yeah, we had my best friend, my little brother, his girlfriend, and my mom, and that was the big birthday. So it was a little bit different than what we had planned.
Oh, happy birthday.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. Getting AARP.
Yeah. And how long have you been doing what you're doing?
So, I went into the school almost 10 years now. Yeah, I started directing this stuff when I was 21. Yeah. So, we'll see.
Yeah, I love your Instagram. I love seeing all your stuff on your Instagram.
That's so funny, thanks.
Yeah, what's your Instagram if you want to, so you can get a little more followers to say hi to you and everything?
It's Hannah, HANNAH, __ Erickson, ERICKSON. Yes.
Awesome. Yeah, well, I think that's it.
Thank you.
We're good, sister. Thank you.
That's a wrap.
It's time for you to go eat.
Yes. Truffle fries, here we come.
Truffle fries from where?
The Anchor. I love you, Anchor.
Oh, yeah. Shane's place.
Yes, Shane.